Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, noted attorney, commentator, and essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg, and rejoining us for at least the second time, maybe the third time, is our very good friend.
Never enough.
Never enough. Jason Miyares, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, a great public servant. He was a great legislator in the legislature in Virginia, then became Attorney General. A wonderful man. I first met him when he was starting this group going after the anti-law enforcement types.
Pro-anti.
They're pro-anti. They're anti.
They're in favor of being anti-cop.
They are. Defund, anti. And he founded this wonderful group, which he's led for years, and he put it together with other distinguished members of attorneys general and state prosecutors and local prosecutors. And so Jason has been a good friend for years now and one of my heroes. And with that introduction, Mr. Attorney General, I turn you over to our mutual friend, Eric Levine.
Well, Jason, great to have you.
Great to be with you guys.
And it's great to have you.
Good to hear your voice, Eric. Great to be with you.
Yeah, same here. To our listeners, you heard it here first. Keep your eye on Jason. This man is a rising star on the Republican Party. He has a real future.
That's right. Jason for president.
Hey, amen. Amen. Anyway, so I want to start with L.A. and what's going on out there with the riots and Trump's decision to federalize the National Guard and to bring out the Marines, and Governor Newsom's response to that. My general takeaway is that President Trump was absolutely right in federalizing the National Guard, bringing peace to the streets of L.A., but I had serious questions as to whether or not bringing out the Marines was the right view. But at the end of the day, bringing down the insurrection, ending the riots had to happen. So what's your take on all that?
Well, there is no question that right now what had happened in LA had gotten out of control, right? I do remind people that President George H.W. Bush actually called out 1,500 Marines during the LA riots in 1992. President Trump called out about 700 Marines. The reality is that he called them out actually to protect federal installations, which he is allowed under his federal authority. But much more than that, what you had, which we have seen, it seems recently in America, is once you have a spirit of lawlessness and permissiveness, it can quickly get out of control as well. And I think the number one goal I think you have in public, if you're a public official, is the safety of your citizens. And when the LAPD police chief was saying that his forces are being overwhelmed, and those videos that were popping in online, notice they were not rocks or anything thrown at the Marines. They were being thrown at LA Police Department members. And the reality is, of course, we support peaceful protests in our country. That's our First Amendment right. It's a sacred one. You have seen entities like out in LA. There's a group called the Party for Socialism and Liberation, or PSL. Sounds like a real group we all want to hang out with on a Friday night, right? But the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
They're great drinkers.
Yeah, but you'd have to pay for the drinks. Okay.
Right. Well, they're Marxists, right? So they want everybody else to pay for it but themselves. But PSL has received a large amount of funding from outside sources, and they absolutely are both organized. And their goal is, what I would argue, their end goal is not peaceful protest, it's chaos. And you have seen a lot of these type of entities that have emerged. We saw it in Virginia after the October 7th tragedy on some of our college campuses. There's absolutely, in my opinion, a level of outside influencers that come in, not just to organize, but oftentimes to commit chaos. And we've seen that firsthand in Virginia. And so I know our attitude in Virginia was we weren't going to allow what happened in Columbia to happen in Virginia. But in my opinion, the first job is to protect your citizens. If that means having the federalized National Guard, then that's absolutely allowed under the law. And, what I would say to the members of Congress who don't like about it, well, then change the law. But that law is on the books.
So we frequently hear about these outside influences and outside funding, but we never, or I shouldn't say never, we rarely hear who these people or groups are by name that are these agitators and are these funders. Do you have? Is there kind of a list? Do we know who these people are specifically?
Well, I'll give you an example. On PSL, this Marxist group, first of all, it's been linked to Elias Rodriguez, the evil man who shot those two innocent Israeli embassy employees, right? So PSL, they go where the chaos. So one second they're protesting, quote unquote, on behalf of the Palestinians, and 1 second they're protesting against federal immigration law, right? But PSL, one of their largest funders, is a guy named Neville Singham. He sold his tech company for about almost $750 million. There's been numerous, quote unquote, allegations of money from foreign sources that have flowed into entities like PSL. Neville Singham's wife is Jody Evans, who also runs Code Pink, which y'all are probably familiar with some of them. And they went from being an anti-Iraq war protest group to now an anti-Israel protest group as well. So you've seen this as well. I personally think one of the most underreported stories by the legacy media in America today has been the amount of outside foreign money that is funded, not just outside groups, but we've also seen and heard a lot of entities being funded lawsuits, right? There is a lot of quote unquote allegations that some of the Gulf states have funded some of the different, either anti-fracking litigation or anti-natural gas litigation as well. Because at the end of the day, there is this sense, and this is my personal theory, there are some of these individuals, these neo-Marxist groups, they actually don't view America as a force for good. Their worldview is America is actually a force for bad, that we are not that last best hope on earth, that they refer, and you could see it in some of their signs they hold up at these rallies. They refer to us as, the American empire, right, that needs to be smashed and destroyed. That is very, very different, I think, from my perspective, as a child of a family that actually fled tyranny in Cuba and came here. And I think it's illustrative of a trend line that we have seen that the media, I think, reluctantly is being forced to report on, which is if you look at the greatest shift towards the GOP on immigration, it's actually what they call new Americans, or what they call immigrant citizens. These are individuals that were not born in the United States. They did it the right way. They came, they went through the entire process. They are now U.S. citizens, and they're the most upset among all the different groups and shifted most towards the GOP on the issue of how to handle illegal immigration. And it really, I think it kind of goes back to what we all knew in grade school, which is we don't like people to cut in line, whether it's in the cafeteria or in our immigration process. And so I think that is illustrative of a larger point right now as well, that so much of the legacy media is missing what so many actual everyday Americans, including new Americans, are viewing this issue. They're actually siding with the president on this issue, and it's counterintuitive to what they've always thought and said and preached on their op-ed pages and in their different media outlets.
Well, one of the names I didn't hear you mention, I'm a little surprised, but George Soros. Are we seeing his fingerprints on any of this?
Yeah, most definitely. You definitely have Soros and other, not just Soros, but there are other left-wing billionaires that have funded that, and that was a big reason. As Richard noted, I started, helped co-found a group, the Protecting Americans Action Fund, that I was a chairman of, and I'm still on the board. But their job was to combat a lot of these social justice prosecutors that were popping up, where Soros will come in and drop a couple $100,000 right before the election and elect these individuals that view themselves as social workers instead of prosecutors. So that's something that I've been passionate about moving forward as well, is making sure you actually have prosecutors that actually realize they're prosecutors. They're not just there to try to have a catch and release program for criminals. But yeah, there is a lot of bad money that has flowed in. Obviously, listen, Soros is an American citizen. He can spend his dollars where he wants. It is undoubtedly true there has also been some foreign money funding some of these protests we've seen around the country on a variety of issues.
Well, I love the hypocrisy here. I thought the Democratic Party or the radical left hated billionaires. I thought the oligarchs were the enemy. But you just listed three billionaires.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the dirty little secret in American politics today is they may claim they hate billionaires, but if you look at some of the largest funding, the number of billionaires funding leftist causes in America today compared to conservative or center-right causes, it's not even close. So many of the largest environmental movements are funded right now by left-wing billionaires. And don't understand it, can't get my arms quite around it, but that's the reality of the situation.
Jason, it's very much like the industrialists in Germany supporting Hitler because they thought they could control him. And that didn't work out too well for them.
Well, you know what? I have a very different theory. You know, G.K. Chesterton once noted that if you stop believing in God, you don't stop believing, you start believing in something else. And for a lot of these individuals, and I think this is where it gets dangerous in American society, their belief system is whatever their political movement is. And I don't think that's healthy. That actually leads directly, in my opinion, it can lead to political violence, right? If you don't view that man is made in the image of their creator and by themselves they have self-worth, and instead I always say whenever ideas matter more than people, you can excuse a lot of atrocities. Whenever ideas are what matter more to you than actually individuals and people. And so that is a trend line I've been concerned about. And I would argue that, listen, I do think the majority of the political violence in this country is on the left, but you can see what happened in Minnesota. It is on the right as well. And I think it's incumbent upon elected leaders to always call people out on that, because political violence is the quickest way, in my opinion, to unravel our republic, and I have zero tolerance for it.
Jesse, your turn with the Attorney General.
Mr. Attorney General, it's a pleasure to be with you. And before I ask you a question, we share a kindred spirit and ethnicity. I'm Cuban as well, as you are, and my father was Cuban, as your mom was Cuban, and my mother was Puerto Rican. So that makes me a Cuban Rican here in America.
So we were just commenting before that there are 2 Jews and 2 Cubans on the show.
That's exactly right.
I love that. Okay. I love that. That's fantastic.
It's the official Cuban show.
Yeah, exactly. But because we're Cubans, we outnumber you guys. Anyway, before I get to my question about the Minnesota and its shooting there, I do want to touch upon something that you did in your career on one of your campaign promises, and because it affects us here in New York. You kept your promise to Virginians to investigate the 2020 parole board that broke the law and jeopardized the public safety by releasing violent and repeat offenders with early sentences. We're seeing that now here in the state of New York with our left woke attorney general, governor, and legislature in this one-party rule. Can you please maybe share with our listeners how you've made Virginia safe by taking on the parole board for the acts of 2020?
Well, when I took office, the Virginia murder rate was at a 20-year high, and our addiction death rate was at a 30-year high. And specifically on the parole board, it became an issue in Virginia. We had a guy by the name of David Simpkins who'd been arrested of not 1, not 2, not 12, not 24, but 56 prior felony convictions. Parole board lets him out, and within a year he commits another armed robbery of an innocent Virginian. And so Virginia started getting tired of it. And the governor did issue an executive order for me to investigate what the previous Democratic governor had done. And it was actually on the books in Virginia. You couldn't release these people without notifying the victims and allowing them to have their voice heard. They were ignoring it. So we found that they had indeed ignored the law. And so, but as far as lowering the crime rate, listen, we're having a 20-year high in our murder rate. To Virginia, we did something really novel. We went after repeat violent offenders. It's pretty consistent around the country, but roughly 5% of felons commit over 50% of the violent felonies. If you want to lower gun violence, if you want to lower your murder rate, you go after those small subset of repeat violent offenders. That is exactly what we did. We launched something called Operation Ceasefire in our 13 most violent cities in Virginia, and we saw a drop in the murder rate of 66%. It's not rocket science. We know Other leaders have done it, and others. Rudy Giuliani did it when he was mayor, and others have done it. If you want to lower violence, you have to go after the repeat violent offenders. When you decide to act like social workers and do a catch and release program, that's when you have these repeat offenders that over and over again commit so much of the crime. And I love to say, Jesse, that there is not a single social justice reform that we argue and debate now today in America that the left pushes that was not previously tried in the 1970s that led to disastrous results. Abolition of parole, getting rid of mandatory minimums, cashless bail. That was all tried in the 70s, all considered new and innovative, and it led to a crime explosion. We got away from it, and they say the only thing you learn from history is no one learns from history. And so we learn from history in Virginia. We decided to go after these repeat offenders, and numbers speak for themselves. Let's hope New York gets some sanity next year in their governor's race and get somebody common sense in there to bring that back.
First, we're worrying about the mayor's race here. Oh, my God.
Right. Oh, that's right.
Well,
is there going to be a socialist mayor in New York?
If only we were socialists. The guy is an outright communist.
No, he's worse than that. He's a trust fund baby. His mother is a billionaire who makes movies. His father is an acknowledged anti-Semite, anti-Israel professor.
Wow.
And the apple doesn't fall. And the apple doesn't fall far.
And he's running on a platform, Jason, of promising everything. Free this, free that, free bus rides, free subways, free groceries,
free Palestine,
free Palestine.
Don't
raise rents.
Oh, he is.
Right. Well, worse than de Blasio.
That's his hero.
I didn't think I was.
That's his hero.
Well, he said that de Blasio is his favorite mayor, and the New York Times shockingly came out and said that he was even too dangerous from New York because he wanted to be like de Blasio. But the New York Times forgot that they had endorsed de Blasio. So I guess
just imagine how bad you got to be to get that from the Times.
I mean,
inconvenient fact.
An inconvenient fact that they seem to overlook here in New York, gentlemen, is this. That when you overtax people, when you overregulate people, when you don't give them law and order and public safety, when you don't take care of the quality of life, when you don't have a good educational system, when you try to micromanage everything in their private lives and telling them they can't have a gas stove or a gas lawnmower or whatever, people get tired of it and they flee. So over 400,000 people have fled New York and they're going elsewhere. What's your experience in Virginia?
Well, we've seen it right there across the waterway in Maryland. You had Governor Larry Hogan left them with a budget surplus and tax cuts. He left in 2022. Maryland now has exploded their deficit. They are now the third highest tax state in the country after California and, sadly, New York. So you're exactly right. And this is one thing I always love to put out to my liberal friends. The states that have the highest levels of income inequality are deep blue states, because we all know the job creation and wealth comes from the small business entrepreneur. 2/3 of all jobs in America created by the small business entrepreneur. The first one to get there in the morning, the last to leave at night. Who's the least able to afford an environment that has too much taxes and too much regulations? It's the little guy. The big corporations can hire the best lawyers, the best accountants. It's just the cost of doing business. It's the startups that cannot survive. So you've destroyed the middle class, the entrepreneur class, and what happens is whether they're in New York or California, they leave and they go to other states like Texas or Florida, and indeed, CNBC named Virginia as the best state in the country to do business. And that's kind of the great irony is it is leftist politicians that always ask voters, only judge me by my intentions, never judge me by the results. They may be well-intentioned, but the results have always been they've created an environment that destroys the entrepreneurial class, the middle class. And so now you have the haves and the have-nots. You have the very income inequality that you claim you want to eradicate with your own policies that have created it.
And Jason, I want to ask you this. You're now running for re-election for your second term as Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And for people who want to support you because of your brilliant career and your great ideas and your great leadership, how do they get in touch with you and how do they support your campaign?
Well, if they want to follow me on social media, they just go on X. It's a great way for you to stay in touch. If they want to go in and support my campaign for re-election, they can just go to jasonmiyares.com or jasonforvirginia.com, or they could just Google my last name. I know Jesse probably knows how to spell it, but the I is pronounced like an E in Spanish, so the last name may be Miyares, but it's Miyares.
Yeah, but I've been pronouncing it correctly all these years, Jason. Let the record show.
Well, don't worry. No worries on that. But appreciate everybody's friendship. We've done amazing things in Virginia, both obviously combating anti-Semitism on our college campuses, keeping Virginians safe, and really, I think, helping to be an example for the rest of the country.
Well, thank you very much, Attorney General Jason Miyares of the Commonwealth of Virginia. On behalf of Chairman Garcia, Eric Levine, and myself, it's been an honor and privilege having you on the show. We wish you every good wish in your reelection campaign and your future career. We look forward to having you back on the show someday soon.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Be on the trail ahead. God bless you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Thank you. We'll be right back in but a few moments with the final segment of this week's Let the Record Show.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit ActiveDay.com to apply.